Well, check this out. Caleb and I have got all the bottom planking on this boat, 2 layers. You know, this layer went right over top of the fiberglass. We nailed it on. You've seen how we went about it. You know, this was a little bit of a tricky area in here, but no big deal. And boy, oh boy, the whole thing, it made nice glue contact. It sounds so different now when you hit it. Oh man, it just has a solid, solid sound. And it is solid. So the next thing for us to do is to smooth this whole side up, and I've been pulling the nails out. I just wanted to show you a few things about it. You know, we use these nails over and over again, maybe 200 at a time or so. And we pulled them out. If they weren't bent too badly, we'd use them again. And it takes time to load up the nails with the nuts and washers. Quite a bit of time, really. It's a little frustrating, but it gets done. So I wanted to find out how easy it was to pull them, really the easiest way to get these nails out without fumbling or dropping the nuts and washers and all that stuff. You know, I pull them up part way and make sure the claw of the hammer doesn't jam on the nail. And if you don't put it on all the way, it'll slip right off the head. So you do it like that. And then quite often the washers, especially at the ends, are kind of glued down. So make sure the washers are all loose like that. And then I'll just take my fingernail and pick the washer up and put the hammer under the washer. Same thing again, I can't drive this hammer all the way in, because if I do, it'll be stuck on the nail and I'll have to fuss with it pulling the nail out of the hammer. No good. And we're talking hundreds of times. You just can't do it. So you put the nail, the claws just under the head, pull it, and then you just dump the washers and drop the nail. And you don't spill them. It works quickly, and it gets the job done. We're throwing these nails away. They've been used 2 or 3 times, but we're keeping the nuts and washers because we're going to use them over and over in many different ways, under screws and all kinds of different things. You know, it seems like something silly to even talk about, but if you were going to do this over and over again, you'd find out how important it really is. So it's pretty simple stuff, really. Maybe I'll put the containers right up here. Same thing. You know, you don't want to have to make a separate decision every single time you pull a nail, because it just drives you crazy. I have to think about something else while I'm doing this, so I'm going to make this as easy as possible. And that's the way you do it, just like that. And I wouldn't have known exactly on every board how deep to sink the screw heads. Get right behind the washer with the hammer. Make sure you don't go all the way in, and pry it right out. Like that. We've used temporary fastenings many times on this boat and other boats, actually, and it always works out fantastic. Sometimes you're using screws on a temporary basis. Sometimes you're using nails. With screws, you have to be awful careful because they can break off and stay in the oak. You have to be very careful you don't drill a hole that's too small or no hole whatsoever if you're using screws. With the nails, it's not so dangerous. You can crumble a nail or bend it over on the way in, but they have very, very little danger of breaking off. So if you were to bend one radically and didn't like it, you just pull it out and put another one in the same hole and just continue. So, you know, they're very safe to use. They're very fast to use. You know, they go in very easily and they come out very easily, and that's exactly what we're looking for. It leaves the hole, obviously, and that hole we're going to use again. We're just going to re-drill it and use it for our screws. Well, as you can see, we've got a little bit of ferring to do. You know, each plank weren't exactly the same thickness, exactly within thousandths, and the glue under each plank's a little different thickness and different things like that. So it's up and down the tiniest little bit, but we're talking a very small amount. And I'm going to smooth it out with an electric plane. Now, not everybody's electric plane is set up to do this, but mine is, so let's get going.
Fairing out a bottom with a plane like this is not something that everybody would try to get involved in, even if they had quite a bit of experience, because I think the first thing they would tell you would be that the corners of the blade would be dragging and making lines in your surface, and you know, it's not pretty when that happens. So these tools weren't designed to do this type of work right here at all. Most people's demonstrations show you the planer hanging over both sides of the work as if they're planing the edge of a door or something. Well, I'm not planing the edge of a door. I'm planing a massive, twisted, curved surface with a flat bottom plane, and I don't want to make any mistakes, and I want to make it as easy as possible. This is the tool. This is a twisted, curved, bent surface in all respects. There's no flat areas on it really at all, but the bottom of the plane is flat. So you've got to get it on there in the right attitude. You know, a man sent us battery-powered Ryobi planer, which we're using right now, and I took some time and set that planer up just like I set all the other ones up, and it's working identically the same. It's kind of funny when you pull the trigger, it kind of comes on a little different, and maybe it sounds a tiny bit different because it's running maybe at a different RPM, but it does exactly the same work. Now with this plane, what I've done is I've altered the way it cuts quite a bit. I think a lot of that has been shown before about the aerodynamics in the throat of it, all kinds of different things I've done to it to make it easier. You know, I've had to make it so that the trigger stays down because I just couldn't keep my hands up on the top of it where they say they belong, but you know, I need to have a hand forward and a hand aft when I'm operating the thing. So I've done that, and you know, I've made it so it does not jam up. But I've also done some tricks to the drum. You know, for years I've tried to make what you would call a scrub plane or a hollowing plane to hollow planks and different things, and I've had to take and shape different types of blades and, you know, get them in the drum properly and all kinds of different things. And, you know, it was a success, but it never really worked as good as I would like it to work. The blades can't be made as sharp as these little carbide blades and everything else. So when I finally got onto these carbide blades over the years, I decided these things cut fantastic. There's nothing like it. I can cut them shorter. I can touch them up with a aluminum oxide wheel, but basically what I'm doing is I'm curving the blade in the head by shimming it on the two ends before I tighten it down. So the middle of the blade is sticking up above the plantings, but the edges of the blade aren't sticking up at all. So no matter what I do, what direction I go, and no matter what I do, I can't make a mess. I can't make a mess. If I put the plane down the wrong direction and push it, it doesn't cut. If I put it down the right direction, it cuts the right amount, and it doesn't give me any trouble at all. There's quite a bit of twist in the material up here in the bottom of the boat, and you would think that with a flat plane you wouldn't be able to get this at all, but with this plane set up the way it does, the plane does not drag the ends of the blades on the wood whatsoever. So like I said, it's hard to make a mess of it, a real hard job to make a mess of it. It seems like no matter what you do, it just comes out right. I couldn't adjust those blades if they were straight or they were longer than the bed of the planer and make it come out right. It just isn't going to work, you know. So it's been a pleasure to come up with these ideas and to be able to accomplish this much work with that little amount of effort. Now the electric planes did most all of the fairing, but I am going to pick up a little block plane and taxi around with that a little bit and see if I find any lumps or bumps or anything that I can smooth out, something I might have missed with the electric plane, because, you know, we didn't do it in any organized fashion with the electric plane. I went wherever I felt like with it. You know, it's not a pattern I was using or anything like that. It's all by sound and feel and appearance. Same thing with the handle. Now that all the nails are pulled and the surface has been faired down, smoothed up and acceptable, it's time to cover screw it. Caleb and I have gone around with a drill and re-drilled every hole, all the holes that the nails were in, a little bit bigger, a little bit deeper, and made sure they were the right size for the screws, and they are. I've checked it I don't know how many times to make sure I didn't drill them too long or too deep or too wide or whatever. These are the right size holes, and these are the right size screws. We're using 2-inch number 12 bronze screws we got from Fair Winds Fasteners. I think this stuff is great material. It's domestic, American-made stuff. This is as good as it gets right here. Even driving these screws is quite a bit of technique. You know, I've showed you before with temporary fasteners. I don't hold the screws down near the boat with my thumb and my forefinger, because if I roll the screw over, I'm liable to stick the bit right through my hand. That wouldn't be good. So I hold them up near the head, and I don't start off awfully slow. I want to start off kind of quickly, because I'm there when the screw is starting to line up with the hole. Then I want to line my bit up with the screw. It doesn't do you much good to line your bit up with the screw when the screw's not lined up with the hole, so it's a matter of process. It just works one right after another, thousands and thousands of them. The other thing I have to say is that I'm using like a little bit of beeswax on them. It's kind of a thick beeswax, and I think as your head comes down in the surface, you can see some of that beeswax come up out of the hole. But it's a solid. It's not a liquid, you know, or something that would spread itself around. So, you know, we don't want any wax on the surface when we're done. So what we do is we drive those heads down a little tiny bit. I just take a little brush and brush along, and the wax is gone, just like that. Now, when I actually start sinking any one of these screws, I start off kind of quickly, because I want to make sure that I can tell if the screwdriver bit is lined up with the screw once the screw is lined up with the hole. If it's not, it clicks like crazy. You can hear it clicking, you can feel it clicking. So you just move the screwdriver bit a little bit to the side. When it lines up, you can tell, and then just bury it. It's as easy a way as there is to go about it. I don't need to have a hammer drill or any of that kind of stuff. To me, it just confuses the issue. You know, there's plenty of power here without any kind of hammering action. The planking has already been fastened down and glued right down, so it's virtually the same piece of wood as the wood underneath it, and that's exactly what we want. This stuff is only 3/8 of an inch thick. And with a tapered head screw like this, you could split the ends of these things quite easily. So, you know, that's another danger that would happen, or you'd be up against every single time you drove that head home. You'd be wondering whether or not it was going to split the end of that board. At this point, I'm driving the heads of those screws home, and I'm not wondering one single bit whether or not they're going to split the end of the board. They're just not going to do it. Now that we've got all the screws sunk and we've brushed away all the beeswax, which removed very easily, we're going to fill it with TotalFair. Now, TotalFair is a one-to-one product, and the accuracy of the measurements don't have to be exactly perfect. Like I say, it's one-to-one. So we're going to take one scoop of part A, which is the yellow, and a scoop the same size of part B, and land them down alongside of each other on the board there, so we can see if they're actually the same size. And we mix it on cardboard. I think it's the easiest thing to do is mix it on cardboard, because you can see if it's getting mixed as you pick it up like that. You know, if it's one color underneath every time you scrape it up, well, it's not mixed up enough. So I keep scraping it up and then smearing it back down, and scraping it up and smearing it back down. The idea of it being two different colors like this is great, because you can see as you're mixing it together. You know, the yellow starts to disappear and the blue starts to disappear, and it ends up coming out like a green. So it works really great. I don't rotate around in circles like I would with glue or something else. Every product and every thickness takes a little bit of a different technique to get it mixed up properly. And, you know, you want this mixed in very, very well. It's not, it sands really easy or scrapes off. Sometimes I use a combination of both. I'll scrape it and then do a little sanding afterwards or something like that. But this is the product right here. And, you know, we don't have to have any special spatula or anything like that, just an old piece of cardboard, and we can use it over and over again. We mix it up a little bit extra. I just don't want to have any unmixed stuff in there. Well, it's time to do the filling, and we're going to head over to the boat here and get going. Now, when we fill these holes, we're going to start up at the keel, because I don't want to reach over something I've already done, or put my elbow down on it, or sit on it, or whatever it is. So I'm going to start up at the very top, just the way I've started everything, and get that filled up first and neatened up as neat as I can, and the rest of it becomes a little bit easier. I don't have to reach quite so far. You can see when I'm doing this that I'll pick some up off the spatula and put it down on the boat. And I'll be filling like 10 or 15 holes all at the same time, actually, because when you putty holes like this, you try to do it as neat as possible because you don't want much excess laying around there. You're just going to have to remove it. And if there's too much, it becomes a problem, like with a scraper or something. You'll kind of dig the wood next to it or something like that. And the wood around it is softer than the putty is. So as you're taking the putty down, you're going to be taking the wood down at the same time. That's your enemy right there. So basically what I try to do is get that putty down looking as neat as possible before I have to like ferret out afterwards. So what I'm trying to do here is make sure that I get the hole completely filled and maybe a little bit more than completely filled. You know, when I drag the knife across the hole, I actually bend the knife down at the same time. I'm looking to get a little hydraulic pressure underneath the knife so that I can see it kind of rise up on the other side of the screw hole. You can see that little lump come up. That way I know that the hole is filled completely. That's exactly the way to go about it. But then I clean up around it and move that down to another hole. It's so nicely done that the sanding of it will actually be easy. I just want to leave as little residue around the hole as possible. Now that we've got all our fairing done and we've sanded it down or cleaned it up, it came out really, really nice. The boat is really looking good. It's exactly what I had in my mind all along, every aspect of it. You know, I love it. It's nice and stiff. The bottom's only 3/4 of an inch thick, but it's cored. Now the next step, and I'm really getting excited about it now, is to get the fiberglass on top of the whole thing. We're putting 2 layers of 1708 fiberglass cloth over the whole thing. And I think you're going to learn some new things about this because I'm going to go about it in a little different way than most people do. I pretty much do everything a little different than most people do, I guess, or so they tell me I do. And this won't be any different than that. So it's fun. It's going to be on there. It's going to provide a little crust over the whole thing because there's nothing particularly hard about this wood that we're using. It's a soft wood. You know, it's Atlantic white cedar. I wouldn't use it just under bottom paint and expect it to have a crust that would protect the boat whatsoever. You know, the fiberglass is the crust, and I can't wait to get started on that. When we're done with that, oh my goodness, then the next thing for us to do is to build these big plywood wheels that we're going to connect to the boat. So that'll be coming up real soon too. That's flipping the boat over. And, you know, don't miss that because it's going to be kind of cool to see this boat upside right after all of this time. I don't want to use a gantry like most people do. So I've decided to do it my own way, and I think you'll enjoy it. I'm certainly going to have fun doing it because that's what we've been all waiting for, is to see it right side up like a boat usually is. And this one's going to be pretty.